Yes, we are going to be talking about new tourism ecosystems from now on. With a round of applause, Sergio Guerreiro will be joining us, and he will be talking about new tourism ecosystems.
Well, good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be here. First of all, I would like to thank organizers for inviting us to be part of this process. And actually, these 2 days were a learning agenda for ourselves, also learning about what are the issues that are being discussed here, and hopefully we can also contribute to it. So a little bit about the OECD Tourism Committee. We are a think tank that brings together 38 member countries of the OECD, so the most developed countries in the world, including Turkey in this field. And we typically we see ourselves working in 3 big pillars. One is measuring and comparing. We are an economic organization, and we typically gather data from our members and our partners, and we discuss it, we compare it, and we support governments to design better policies for driving common challenges that we have all over the world. A second pillar is we also do analysis and policy advice to governments and to our members. This has been a wider work that we've been doing at the OECD, with several of our countries being evaluated within this process. And the idea is to become a benchmark of best practices all across the OECD world that can benefit OECD members in this field. Third pillar, and I think probably the most important and widely connected to the topics that we discussed in the previous panel, is we believe strongly in a whole-of-government approach. First of all, all our tourism committee understands that tourism as a standalone sector doesn't work, because we need infrastructure, we need culture, we need education, we need several other areas of government. And what we believe is that if tourism can be integrated in the decision-making process, and believe me that probably you're lucky here in Turkey, because we have several examples where this is truly an issue. How can we put tourism as one priority for the overall government? And also the collaboration with the private sector. This is something that in the last decade, I'm part of the OECD Tourism Committee since 2011, and a lot of things evolved here is how do we put the private sector together with the public sector in the decision-making process. The decisions that governments do are quite important, and with an evolving ecosystem that we're living in the company side, it's fundamental that governments work together with companies on that. So on the work of the committee, we've been working for many years in transit data, so all the relevant data from our ecosystem, everything is publicly available in our tourism database. We've been working, obviously, in the last 4 years on recovery and resilience. All the industry suffered significantly in recent years, so the work here is quite important. And 2 other pillars of work of the committee are connected to competitiveness. So how do we measure it? Everyone talks about competitiveness and sustainability. It's time to get to common indicators that we can compare and we can measure the work and the progress in this field. Tourism is, in the OECD world, with our diversity, it is a very important economic pillar of our economies. First of all, accounting 4.4% of GDP. I've listened yesterday that here in Turkey is significantly more important. The country that I come from, Portugal, is exactly the same. So I'm feeling at home with all the discussions that we have around here. Almost 7% of employment, 20% of services exports. For example, in Portugal, we count for 50% of the services exports and 10% of the employment. And another important thing that I wanted to highlight to you, because it's something that sometimes the tourism industry as a whole is neglected, is our impacts in other economies, in other sectors of our economy. So that we've estimated the indirect impacts of tourism. So for each €1 of value added in the tourism industry, we add 61 cents in other sectors. So this is not investing in tourism and the whole value stays in the tourism industry. We pretty much connect with the food industry, we pretty much connect with construction, we pretty much connect with transports, with several other industries which are quite important. So we already discussed in these 2 days the strong recovery that we had after the pandemic. It was actually really a fast recovery in the OECD world in general, but a little bit even, so not everyone recovered at the same pace. Portugal, my own country, was one of the fastest, together with Turkey, to get a stronger recovery. But after a nightmare of 2 years of the pandemic, a very strong recovery, what we are feeling now is different kinds of challenges. And the challenges evolved. And my message for you around here is, we have to be ready for the changes of challenges that we're living every day. We moved, first of all, governance mechanisms to support tourism development. We've talked a little bit about the social impact of tourism. Probably it was, in the OECD world, definitely one of the most important topics that arose from the pandemic, which was, don't forget about people, don't forget about residents. Residents has a huge impact in the future development of the sector. The second block, which is still in our agenda, and I would say one very important block, is connected to the climate action that we need to undertake as a civilization, and the tourism sector has to be part of it, has to be an example of it. And also the digital agenda. So the climate agenda and probably the digital agenda are 2 of the most important agendas that we have on the table. A lot of incorporation of technology that it's available already, that the tourism sector is lagging behind if you compare to other sectors. Imagine just one example, the retail sector, where the adoption of technology is pretty much stronger than in the case of tourism. And the need to balance tourism flows as one very important block, because of the stresses also on sustainable transport and infrastructure. So, as I was saying, challenges evolved, and these 2 slides are the work that we did for the G20. This one is from 2020, where the focus was on, let's try to make ease of traveling, so visa requirements, digital travel identity, and biometrics. Why? Because with the pandemic, it became a hotspot, became critical to the progress that we needed to do. Then also connectivity, and we've discussed that. We are also a country that relies pretty much on connectivity. It is key for countries that rely on tourism. And finally, how do we engage with visitors and provide them a better experience? This was 2020. If we move to 2022, just in 2 years, challenges evolved. So what does that mean? It means that governments, but also companies, have to follow this agenda. We moved from safe mobility to crisis management, and crisis management doesn't need to be a pandemic, can be anything, can be wildfires, can be natural disasters, can be any crisis, so we need to adapt, and I'm not sure if we learned all the learnings from the pandemic. Let's hope that we don't have to prove our resilience back. So then, green transformation, another one very important block. Inclusiveness is really on the agenda of every government within the OECD Tourism Committee, because it's becoming very, very important, especially for the cohesion of residents. Finally, the digital transition and infrastructure are common topics that we have in our agendas. From the Portuguese view of the system, we have been advocating for more than 10 years the vision of working like an ecosystem. And I brought on purpose the definition of the OECD on working and entrepreneurs in bringing all people working together in a continuous way. It's not only when we do a strategy, it's not only when we have to make hard decisions, actually it's a common practice that we've been doing. I did my first presentation on innovation ecosystems in the Portuguese Tourism Fair in 2014. And I was more or less in the same position that I was. I was with an entrepreneur on stage with me, and no one, literally no one, was on that side. Because we were talking about startups, we were talking about technology, we were talking about digital, and believe me that no one was listening. But we did the pitch anyway, because we truly believed that that was the way that we needed to progress. Back in 2017, we were discussing digital menus for restaurants, and we were discussing new ways of engaging with customers. We were discussing the chatbots for the industry. And believe me, none of the industry was listening at us. So we've started to build, and this is more a story of a journey to build than is one thing that you clash your fingers and it's done. No. So what we were just getting out of 2 economic crises in Portugal, so a huge problem within our financial system for a start. And what we understood is there was talent in our universities, very talented in the area of technology, so a lot of startups wanted to develop projects. Also, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the incubators and accelerators, they were quite active. Banks didn't have money or didn't have credit for companies, but actually venture capitalists and business angels were around trying to find new ways of making their money. And we looked at it and say, why not bringing all this talent to our industry and start developing the issues that we have in our sector? And that's what we did. So we've established a program of innovation consistently. Why? Because when we are in crisis, we are the best innovators. Because we need. The issue, the challenge is how innovation can become something continuous. So that's what we've done. So we've settled a policy from the government. We've created an ecosystem, and every year we invite incubators, accelerators, and startups to develop projects with the companies. So everything starts with the tourism sector, with the tourism companies, and we select companies and they identify which are their problems. And then what do? We bring together talent, we bring together methodologies, and let's try to solve the problems. Since 2019 until now, we've developed more than 100 innovation programs. We have 1,700 startups working with us in a current basis, and we've done, together with companies, more than 200 innovation pilots. Also, focus is important. We cannot work on every problem of every people, so focus is important. Visitor experience is typically one of the most important areas to work on. Sustainability, obviously. We truly believe in sustainability. We've put sustainability in the core of our strategy. But we need to work and we need to give tools to entrepreneurs. 98% of our companies are SMEs, so they need support in order to make their way in this process. Another one is mobility, data, and finally, operations efficiency. The big surprise was when the pandemic came, we had the solutions in our desk. Restaurants needed digital menus. It's here. Oh, you need chatbots to work with our companies. It's here. You need a safe stamp for achieving security and facilities management. It's here. So everything was actually available because we were working on the future needs of companies. This is my picture of the ecosystem, and I would say my first slide on results. Here you can see hotels, you can see restaurants, you can see travel agents, you can see tech companies from the sector, you can see mobility sectors, you can see banks, people from cities, airlines, and mobility within the city. You see startups, a lot of them, and a lot of our alumni participated in several international competitions, won them, but most important, they are selling all over the world their solutions on the most different areas. And our partners down are truly the incubators. What we also done, because this became very important, we've set up an innovation center together with Microsoft, Google, 2 banks, 1 mobility company, and with 1 tech company, because we believe that most of the innovation, the technological innovation that comes to our sector actually comes outside of our industry, and those were the ones that have the power, the knowledge, the expertise, and the network to actually speed up our work. The work that we've been progressing, this is just one example of what we're doing. We're acting like clusters, where every time that we have an issue on sustainability, we bring our ecosystem in. Here you see the startups that participated in our process that deal with energy efficiency and monitoring, mobility, product development, data, or waste management. So our companies have a portfolio of solutions that they can, from one day to the other, test. And test is a very important part of our journey, because not every solution works to every company, but what we believe is these young talents can support companies to drive change within our sector. So finally, back to the OECD agenda. This is our flagship publication. Believe me that we are one of the oldest, but one of the smallest committees at the OECD, and this publication was best-selling publication at the OECD with more than 1 million downloads. Everything is available for you, so feel free to navigate our database, feel free to navigate our publications. We've been producing significant amount of work on sustainability and competitiveness, and I hope that you enjoy. And all from my side, right on time. These are my contacts. Feel free to interact. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you.